Hi, welcome to our second video for Module 3 on risk return and the time value of money. So we're going to move on now to look at another formula, the holding period return. What does that mean, the holding period? So that is the length of time which the investors are measuring the return on an investment. We can either have a realised return or a paper return. So a realised return is when you've actually sold that investment and you've received the payment for it. A paper return means that you haven't actually sold the investment. You can see if you've made a capital gain or a loss, but you don't actually have it. It's just written on paper whether or not you've made that loss or that return. So if it's realised, you've actually made that loss or profit. So the holding period return is very easy to calculate and easy to understand. It considers the income and growth, but it doesn't consider the time value of money. And if you were to do this over a period longer than 1 year, the rate would be inaccurate. So just make sure that you understand the difference between a realised profit or loss and a paper profit or loss. So here's our formula, the holding period return. We take so this is the return that we talked about in video 1, the income that was earned during the period plus the capital gain, or if it was a loss, you'd subtract it. So for holding period return, we add these together and then we divide by the beginning investment value. So what was this investment worth at the beginning? So to summarise it down, that's what it would look like on our formula sheet. HPR equals Inc plus CG over VO. Now how do you work out your capital gain or your loss? Well, that's this one down the bottom. You take the ending investment values of what your investment's worth at the end of the period and subtract off the beginning, so what you paid at the start. And that will tell you if it's positive, you made a gain, if it's negative, you've made a loss. Let's get straight into practicing. So Fred purchased 650 BHP shares for $28.25 in June 2018. So they're currently trading at $38.78. So is that an increase or a decrease? So straight away you can see that they're currently trading at a higher value. So you can see that there's been a capital gain since Fred made this purchase. Now Fred's received a dividend of 142 cents per share in September 2018 and a dividend of 84 cents per share, which was paid in March 2019. So those two are our incomes. So what is Fred's holding period return? So we need to know what the income is, we need to know the capital gain, and we need to know the investment at the beginning. So the income during the year, well, those are the two dividends that are paid, 142 cents and 84 cents. And the capital gain, well, that is the price now less the price at the beginning. And the beginning value of the investment. What did Fred pay for each of the shares at the beginning? So back here in the question, it tells us he paid $28.25. If you'd like to, pause and see if you can have a go at working out the answer yourself. Right, let's go on. Okay, so what was his holding period return? Okay, so the income during the year, 142 cents per share plus 84 cents per share. So add those two together, and for each share, he got $2.26. We just look at this valued on one share. What was the capital gain? Well, they're currently trading for $38.78 and he paid $28.25. So $38.78 minus the $28.25. So there's a capital gain for each one of $10.53. And then we need to know the beginning value. So he paid $28.25 for each one in the beginning. Plug those figures into the formula. Okay, so we're going to end up with a holding period return of 45.27%. So has Fred made a realized return or a paper return? And over what time period are we talking about? Would the return be different if he had purchased 500 shares instead of 650 shares? Well, no, there's no difference. It's still going to be the same holding period return, whether we're talking about 500 shares or 650 shares. Has he made a realized return? Did Fred sell them? No, he hasn't sold them. He still owns those shares. So this is a paper return. And over what time period? From June 2018 to March. Well, I haven't specified it exactly here, but we would say it is about a year that we're looking at. Okay, slightly different scenario. So purchased it for the same amount, but now those shares are worth $24.35. So see how this is less than what he originally purchased them for. So they're currently trading with a capital loss. The same dividend amounts were paid. We're going to calculate what is the holding period return. So we need to know our income. That's going to be the same as what it was, 142 cents per share and 84 cents. And what's the capital gain or loss? Well, we can see that it's a capital loss. So if you'd like to, pause, have a go at doing this question. All right, spoiler alert, about to do the answer. Okay, income remains the same, $1.42 and 84 cents per each share, so $2.26 for each one. But this time we've got a capital loss. They were purchased for $28.25 and they're worth $24.35 now. So that's a loss of each one of $3.90. The beginning value is the same, $28.25. So if we put that into our formula, before we were showing a holding period return of 45%, now it's 5.81% and it's negative. So is this a real loss? Is it realized or is it a paper loss? Has Fred sold the shares? No. So this is a paper loss. So we just talked about the holding period return, and that's failing to take into account the time value of money. Now, yield is the compounded annual rate of return earned on a long-term investment. Now, this is what we call the discount rate. It produces a present value of the investment's benefits that just equal its costs. So present value equals 0. So when we use yield, this is accounting for the time value of money. Now, if the yield on an investment is equal or greater than the required return, then the investment is acceptable. If it's the other way around and the yield is below the required return, then the investment would be unacceptable. So remember that $1 that we receive today, that's worth more than if we were getting $1 in the future. Remember things that affect what's happening to the dollar in the future. We've been talking a lot in class about inflation and how that's devaluing our money. So the sooner that you get your return on an investment, the better off you're going to be. The sooner you can put that money to work, earning interest, and the faster it will grow. So a satisfactory investment is where we've got the present value of the benefits equal or exceeds the present value of its costs. So let's have a go. Now, so you are going to need a calculator that can do these kind of calculations. So we've got the formula, future value equals the present value 1 plus r to the power of n. So we're being asked to calculate the future value of an investment of $4,000, 5.5% compounded annually for 7 years. So we'll put that into our formula. So our $4,000 is our present value. We've got 5.5%. Now remember to divide that. N is 7. So the future value of 4,000, 1 plus the interest rate to the power of 7 should give you 5,818. I really want to check it, but my calculator here is not going to handle this kind of thing. I'll have to get out a different calculator. So the future value of the investment is $5,818. So we can flip it around and look at it in a different direction. So that means $5,818 in 7 years' time. If there was a discount rate of 5.5%, well, that's worth $4,000. So here's our formula. Future value equals present value to 1 plus I to the power of n. Rearrange it, and then we end up with the present value equals future value 1 plus I to the power of minus n. Or you can put it underneath. So if we use our previous example of $4,000 invested for 5.5%, we come back to that $5,818. This is all based on the concept of compound interest. So we're getting paid our interest, but we're also receiving interest on top of the interest. We're being paid interest for the interest that we have as well as the principal. Here we go, we've got $1,000. These are the number of years. And you can see if we have a 5% rate of return, we'd have $2,600. So we've got interest income of $1,600. But we were receiving this interest over the time. So as time goes on, you get paid interest on that $1,600 as you slowly receive it. So you're actually getting an 8% rate of return, and you're going to end up with $4,601.